I'll continue with the No God series. I will talk about heavenly law. This is a very important topic, especially at this time, the time of establishing substantially Chungiguk. Are we establishing Chungiguk based on the rule of law, rule of heavenly law? So Western civilization has provided us the rule of law. As true parents always said, the rule of law is Roman law. So this is the era of Chongiguk. So are we establishing the rule of law or the rule of heart? So I hope some conclusion can be made at this time. We all know that we are living in an era, not the era of indemnity, but the era that is the end of indemnity. But if you look back, True Mother made this pledge when she received the marriage holy blessing in 1960. During my lifetime, my beloved husband and I will bring to a conclusion the history of the providence of restoration through indemnity, during which God has laboriously toiled. So this is a pledge that True Mother made on behalf of true parents to end the era of indemnity. And we are living in this era where there is supposedly no more indemnity necessary. So we can attend to our heavenly parent directly. So if you look at the proclamation and the dates when this era of indemnity ended, there are two dates. One is 3rd October 1989, and then there is the proclamation of the end of the era of indemnity in Sun Moon University in 2003. So that is the period that we could say the era of indemnity ended. So let's read a little bit about the settlement of the 8 stages. I've gone through the vertical and the horizontal causes of indemnity according to those 8 stages, and settle, and thereby the restoration of the right of the first son is completed, and the cause of indemnity for all the people of the earth is resolved. The right of the eldest son is restored, and true parents can embrace all humankind. This ceremony brings an end to the history of wars and struggles that were necessary to restore the right of the eldest son in the realm of true parents' love. So that's the proclamation that was made 3rd October 1989. And yet we live in an era still, we see 2 wars, especially in the Middle East war started when True Mother visited America. So some of us may have some doubts whether this era of indemnity is still very much with us. We have to understand that we are living in the last days, and we are also living in the first days of Chongiguk. So this transition is taking place, and our faith, absolute faith in our true parents and true mother in particular, is vital for the establishment of Chongiguk. We are indeed living the end of the era of indemnity already. So another very important understanding that True Father made in 1999, probably after the surrender of Satan, yeah, in March 23rd, 1999, True Father said that there's no need to make effort to love your enemy. Results will appear instantaneously. You will not need to make effort to love your enemy because everything will happen according to law. In the future, when God's will has been completed and the Constitution enacted, results will appear instantaneously. You will not need to make effort to love your enemy because everything will happen according to law. When Professor Kim visited the United States and presented his presentation, I don't know whether you look at the department he belongs to. He belongs to the Department of Heavenly Law. So that's, I think, speaks a lot. So what Jesus was able to establish 2,000 years ago as the only begotten Son of God was to bring about the subjugation of Satan if we can love our enemy. That's an amazing accomplishment that Jesus provided a way for us to subjugate Satan. But now the providence have gone beyond that, that it is based on heavenly law, that there is no need to love your enemy even. So results will appear instantaneously and everything will happen according to law, heavenly law. Now it's important to also understand that since we come from Eastern tradition, we know that Eastern civilization has existed to this very day through a long history of ethics and morality, especially based on Confucius' value system. And True Mother, in his memoir, made this very important statement. So the foundation of morality and ethics, which in turn arise on the foundation of the love of God between husband and wife, parents and children. So ethics and morality now is going to be based not on any kind of value system, but based on the love of God between husband and wife, parents and children. This love of God in the family is the source of absolute values, and they are universally shared and taught by all religions. So what is the difference between the marriage blessing and all other marriages? If you put it in a very simple term, and based on what we have just read here, is love God before you love your spouse. But not just love God before your spouse, love God as the foundation so that this love of God between husband and wife. So while we are loving husband and wife, the love of God becomes critical in establishing this foundation of a new moral and ethical standard. So this is very, very important understanding. And we can say that what's so unique about our marriage blessing is we are called to love God before we love our spouse. And with the establishment of the coronation of God on January 13, 2001, Father proclaimed 3 immutable laws. And so when we talk about heavenly law, we cannot but turn to these 3 immutable laws that was established, or rather proclaimed by true parents. Number 1, keep your purity. Number 2, do not abuse human rights. Number 3, do not misuse public money. Now, keep purity means to ensure that this blood lineage blessed blood lineage that we receive is not stained by impurity or immoral sexual relationship. But the emphasis here is on the second law, not to infringe upon human rights. So Father talked about human rights. And later on, I will talk more about what that really means in terms of this era of heart. So here, True Father talks about that we should not have any racial discrimination against others or prejudice. We know very well, even within our church, this is one of the most difficult, rule to keep. Yeah, very difficult. There's more discrimination and prejudice in our church than in the outside world, because we are not international citizens. We are not sons and daughters of God yet. So I will move on and emphasize that human rights, the violation of the rights of each individual, more fundamentally is based on not to violate the heart of God and the heart of one another. Father, please, Father always said this, and I think I've quoted this before. Don't just ask for heavenly parents' forgiveness, but Father, please forgive me for having destroyed the heavenly order, for having violated the original relationship with you, for having violated relationship with other people, for damaging the creation, and for all other sins that I personally committed, especially the violations of heart. So it's very important to continue to emphasize that when we talk about human rights, Father is talking especially about violation of heart. You should understand that there is no sin greater than having violated someone's heart. Today, phantoming God's heart, you should understand that you are sinners who violated God's heart of love. Sinners who rejected the heart of all creation, and obstructionists who block the fulfillment of the will of heart. I hope you understand this and repent from your heart. And these very words were spoken in 1960. That one of the most serious sin that Adam and Eve have committed, and we commit every day, is violation of heart. Violating the heart of God and violating the heart of one another. And most of us violate the heart of God without even knowing. We violate the heart of our spouse, our loved ones, even without knowing. This is how tragic situation we are in, because we don't even know our heart towards God and towards our spouse. So here again, we have to be reminded that true parents always talk about the root of human morals is the heavenly law. Human morals are based on the conscience. Conscience precedes law. So the word conscience, Father is using here as our original mind. That's our conscience, our original heart, if man have not fallen. So human morals are based on the conscience. Conscience precedes the law. Goodness is the foundation of conscience. When we deviate from goodness and go astray, our conscience tries to correct us. Our concept of goodness set the standard for our conscience. We are quite familiar with this because true parents talk about conscience as what is made us closest to God. Yeah, that's our original mind, our original heart. I'll try to put all this understanding together so that we can understand what is this heavenly law, and are we living in the rule of heavenly law or rule of heart? So this is the verse of from True Mother, memoir again, when True Father and True Mother received the holy marriage blessing. They were seated very close to one another, and True Father gazed at me with the overwhelming heart of God. It seemed as if a waterfall of tears was about to burst forth from his eyes. So the two of us sitting together at a small table to eat, treading the path of Hyojong in front of God. So True Mother is describing this heart-to-heart relationship that they had from the very beginning after the holy marriage blessing. This heart-to-heart. So the foundation of heavenly law, the foundation of Chungiguk, must be this heart-to-heart relationship that we should have with God, with Heavenly Parent, and with one another as husband and wife, as the foundation of all morality, ethics, and foundation for all relationship in that sense. Yeah. However, we still come from a fallen lineage. And even though we have received the marriage blessing, we have to be reminded of these two verses that Jesus spoke at the Sermon on the Mount to remind us that we are very insensitive to one another. We are so afraid to be hurt. We have this fear. We are not vulnerable to the pain that is of others and how we cause pain in others. And we are not, vulnerable enough to even receive the pain from our loved ones. So we are reminded that actually, blessed are the poor in spirit. That means those who feel lacking in heart. For theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So if you are lacking in so many ways, that means our conscience is working, our heart is working. We turn to God to repent and to ask that we can have a new heart and a new spirit. And when we are able to mourn because we miss someone, we yearn for someone, and yet the passing of someone can cause us to grieve. We are the ones that are most blessed because we will be comforted. And the word vulnerability becomes very, very important. Especially young people today talks about vulnerability more than anything else. So this is what is necessary for us. So this is the last slide. I cannot leave you without saying that Are we living in a the rule of law should be still applicable, or are we bringing in the rule of heart? Of course, there's a rule of heavenly law, but this heavenly law must be governed by our heart. And when you talk about heart, we have to have this heavenly parent's heart residing in us. My thoughts are God's thoughts. God's thoughts are my thoughts. Yes, that's unity in terms of, thought. Unity, heart to heart, means what? I will never do anything to hurt God. Never. I will never do anything to hurt my spouse. And I will never do anything to hurt my children. That is Heavenly Parent's heart, isn't it? So to put it in, what is this rule of heavenly law? It's none other than the rule of this heavenly heart of our heavenly parent. And we are supposed to inherit this through true parents, through Father in heaven, and through Mother here in this physical world. That is this era that we can know God, because we are living in an era of heavenly heart, inheriting this heart from our true parents and inheriting this heart from our heavenly parent. So I hope this clarifies what is this era we're living in. It's not the rule of law, but the rule of heart.